Hello, BookTube. Today I am reviewing The Shallows, What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains by Nicholas Carr. This book scared the living hoo-ha out of me, I guess would be the word. He breaks down, he quotes a lot of neurologists, neurobehavioral scientists, and the bibliography is quite thick. I definitely recommend it. It was a good book. It said, "Is Google making us stupid?" And here is where I will do a spoiler alert and tell you guys that you're going to have to read it to find out. But the inside cover said, "Is Google making us stupid?" Read the book and find out. My personal opinion is it probably is after reading the book, but then again, everybody has their own personal perspective on things like this. So I would encourage you to get The Shallows by Nicholas Carr and think for yourself, think deeply about it. I kind of think so. This is one of the books that was on former President Barack Obama's reading list. I got 2 off that list. The rest of the stuff wasn't really my cup of tea, so I did not get it. But definitely enjoyed The Shallows. It's a quick read. It's only 240 pages. And the font is pretty thick, so definitely encourage you to check that out. I also read this week The Mastery of Self by Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. I guess how you pronounce it. Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. Interesting book. Once again, another quick read. It took me maybe an hour and a half to read it. A Toltec Guide to Personal Freedom. And it really struck home. I really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people like books by the Toltec wisdom seems to be pretty popular right now. So yeah, Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. It's a little book. It ain't very big. There you go. Picture of the front cover. There's a sparrow, it looks like, on the cover. It talks about, let me see, how we are brainwashed as children. It talks about how we can become more thorough, how we can become more free from the conditioning that we experienced as children. It also goes into communication with how we are domesticated as children. There's actually a quote in the book that says, "Humans are the only animal that domesticates themselves." Which, after reading the book, I'm like, yeah, I can feel that. We do. We force other people's views on us. At times, we even have to wear masks around people because everybody sees us differently. Just a really, really lot of good advice in this book. It talks about a difference of comparison and competition, how we come from a lack or a scarcity of something, and inside of us, we feel that we have to hoard, I guess would be the word. How we have to, if John Smith over here gets this, that means this promotion or such, that means that I can't get this promotion or such. But sometimes it's a good thing not to get what you wish for, right? It talks about the difference between conditional love, or conditional love, and unconditional love. And I really, through reading this book, I was thinking, you know what, 99% of all love we experience from others or even for ourselves is always based on conditions. So definitely check out The Mastery of Self by Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. And I've got Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, which is a very thick read. It took me, I think, 8 or 9 hours to actually go through and read the book. It pretty much goes from human biology, evolutionary sciences, up to the modern day. And wow. It's called Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. I kind of got the view that Mr. Harari, or Dr. Harari, it doesn't say doctor, so I'll assume he's not, is a humanist. But he says he went to the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, so maybe not. But he is a doctor, PhD, so I enjoyed this book as well. There's the cover of it. Definitely worth the price. Was pretty cheap compared to other books in this size, and it has a lot of content, a lot of interesting content, a lot of things to mull over on your brain, and think, is this true? Is this ethical? Should we do this? Should we not do that? So let's see. Basically, it starts out as we are animals. I mean, Homo erectus, Homo Neanderthal, Homo sapiens. I guess we're the thinking Homo. Talks about Adam and Eve, some of the biblical stories, but generally speaking, it's humanist, which I think is fine considering the perspective it's coming from. It goes from how did we get sentience? How did we become human? I mean, nobody really knows. It breaks down, who knows. Then it goes into the agricultural evolution, which is part 2, which kind of breaks down as to why mankind went from hunter-gatherer in an average lifespan of 60 or 70 years to tilling the soil and the influx of disease. It was interesting in the story in this book because it says, mankind makes the technology, but sometimes the technology makes man, which was also in what the internet is doing to our brains, the shallows. So it's kind of, both books are really close to being, they're similar, but they're completely different topics. It talks about how we operate on 50,000-year-old mental software, and that how we are not evolutionarily adapt enough or competent enough to be able to understand some of the technologies that we have now. It talks about the economics, how humankind economy was founded, how gold really wasn't or isn't a metal with any real value, but it's the value that we as Westerners have put on it that gave it value. So there was something in there. It talks about the rise of religions, polytheism, monotheism, Christianity, the triple Jews of monotheism. And then it goes into the science of marriage, the discovery of ignorance, the scientific revolution. It's like, oh, we're not very bright, we're apes. We're not very intelligent, are we? I liked the end because it kind of started talking about ethically as human beings, or Homo sapiens, do we have an ethical responsibility to resurrect Homo Neanderthal, Homo erectus, saber-toothed tigers, all these animals, the megafauna that we wiped out? Do we have an ethical responsibility to bring this stuff back? And then towards the end it talks about are humans going to genetically engineer themselves to become a better species? Or is it going to be like a cybernetic implants? Or is it going to be a combination of both? At the end, it kind of pretty much specifies, will we even recognize ourselves after we tinker with our genetic codes or cybernetic implants? Will we as humans become gods, which Friedrich Nietzsche would love, because you all know him. So definitely check out Yuval Noah Harari, Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. 5 stars, loved it, definitely worth reading. Check it out, as well as Gravity by Sir Isaac Newton. The Mastery of Self by Don Miguel Ruiz, and What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains, The Shallows by Nicholas Carr. Definitely recommend these 3 books. They will change your perspective on a lot of things, which is always something nice for people who like to read nonfiction. In all honesty, I think, from my own personal perspective, I read nonfiction with the intent or the intention of understanding things better, to get a better grasp of our reality, even though in the book of Sapiens, it pretty much broke down that a lot of the things that we view as being real are just cultural, I guess the term would be hallucinations. So definitely, I loved it. And to make matters better, is Sapiens was it says international acclaim, so an international bestseller. 100,000 years ago, that was the first couple words in the title page. Please subscribe. Thank you for watching towards the end, because I know most people don't. And have a good weekend.